Welcome to the Kerry Barrett Show. I'm Kerry Barrett. Along with expert interviews about social media, about video marketing, and about video strategy, this podcast is the place that you'll come to learn to show up comfortably, confidently, and compellingly on camera so that you can leverage the lens for every single opportunity it can give you. That means social media, it means content creation, it means media opportunities, course creation, and audience visibility and growth. I overcame a debilitating fear of speaking to go on to a 25-year Emmy Award-winning on-camera career. But it's only when I realized the connection wasn't about perfection, but about realness and relatability that my success on camera and in my business soared. It's how I grew my brand online and in life. And this is where you will learn to do the same. So let's jump in. Laura Panica, the owner, founder of VIQ Media House, social media manager extraordinaire, strategist, all things online, showing up, social media marketing. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So a little bit of a side note, Laura and I work together on some clients, and we've known each other for a while now, and she is still putting up with me. and my lack of knowledge about how to run a business, which can be somewhat chaotic quite often. And maybe that's for another episode. But what we'd like to talk about today is where you should be showing up, video strategy, what platform people need to be starting on. And if you are a small business owner, there's so much out there, and I feel like every day there's something new. You know, it's TikTok and it's Clapper, and now it's Threads, which is part of Meta, which is, you know, Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp and probably a few other things that I'm missing at this point as well. But let's start with the basics. When you have a small business owner that comes to you, whether it's a solopreneur, whether it's somebody online, whether it's a real estate agent, whatever it is, and they say, Laura, I need to be on social media, but I really don't know how to get started. I've done some posting on a lot of the platforms, not with much intent. Hello, that used to be me. What do you say to them?
Yeah. First, I have to say, I don't think you give yourself enough credit because you are phenomenal at what you do, your craft, and being a business owner.
Thanks.
I've learned a fair share from you as well. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I think there's obviously like the big four, right? There's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Although now TikTok, it's like, where does that fit in? Is this the big four, or are we expanding to five? Then there's Pinterest, which in and of its own is a big platform for certain types of functionality. But I think as it relates to video, and in this day and age in 2023, if a small business owner wants to get started, the easiest platform, or rather the platform with the lowest barrier of entry, I would have to argue, is Instagram.
Okay.
The user interface is super easy. There is something for everybody on there. An interesting fact is their demographic is starting to kind of tick up, right? We saw this with Facebook, right? Early adopters came into Facebook. It was largely millennials, as that was, you know, I think myself and maybe in between mine and your generation when that came out, however many years ago.
So you're saying I'm older?
No.
I'm joking.
But like 10 years ago when that came out, right? That's who it was. And now, if you look at their demographics, it skews upwards to more Gen X, boomers, right? Is before
boomers.
And there's a Gen Y in there, no? Or is that millennials? I don't know.
That's I think, you know what? I don't know. There's a lot.
And now you're seeing that trend actually with TikTok and with Instagram as well.
Yeah.
However, I will argue that Instagram is a mainstay, despite all these platforms that have come and go, like, as you mentioned before, even like think about Clubhouse, right? That was,
oh gosh, yeah.
20, I think the pandemic probably helped propel that. But Instagram is a mainstay since they've been out more than 10 years ago. They just keep growing in their functionality. And as you saw, just last week with the Threads launch.
Yeah.
So in any event, it's a super easy to use platform. They are definitely a mainstay. I can almost guarantee that your target audience is on there in some way, shape, or form. It's a place for everybody. And just given the visual nature of the platform, I think that's where people flock to,
Yeah.
right? We want to be entertained. One of the easiest ways to entertain is through video. And they've just opened so much capability with video over the last even just 5 years with Reels. So it's super easy and definitely one that I recommend getting on.
Let me ask you, so you mentioned that Instagram had, a sort of a low barrier to entry, and part of that is because it's been around for a while. There are new features. It's very easy to use. Do you find that it's the same for it? Let's say you are a small business owner, whether you're targeting, whether you're B2B or B2C, does that matter?
I think no, not necessarily if you're B2B or B2C. I think within that space, what seat are you targeting, right? So if it's targeting high C-suite level execs, that Instagram might not be that kind of platform. But then we also have to take a level deeper, right? As with all niching down and finding your target audience, there's a few different classifications, right? There are the demographics, then there is the psychographics. So even if you are targeting C-suite, are they more like millennials where they use Instagram for their own passive consumption? So yeah, maybe you could still target them and get in front of them, even though they are in the C-suite, right? Think about all these cool brands like the Skinny Confidential or even Glossier. Like I would guarantee you that their CEOs are on Instagram. But let's say you're in the B2B space and you're targeting like hedge fund owners or like high-end financial planners and CEOs to that extent, they may or may not be using it for consumption, probably not necessarily for business. There are other platforms that are better for that.
So even if a C-suite executive is not necessarily on Instagram looking for business content, could they still potentially get that? Could the algorithm work in your favor if you're posting on Instagram? And can, let's say, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, even if not all exactly where your audience is, you're almost creating a social media funnel, and one platform can support the other? I mean, should we sort of keep that in the back of our heads as we're planning our platform and content strategy?
Yeah, so those are kind of packed questions. So let me break down the first part.
Okay.
Right? So can you still target C-suite execs? Absolutely, even if they're subconsciously consuming on, let's say, Instagram.
Okay.
It comes down to what we call parallel content, right? How else can I relate to you? And so if you're taking that into account, like your target market as an entire person, whether that's a C-suite exec or not, if you target them as a whole person, what other things do they care about? Maybe traveling, maybe trying top 5-star Michelin restaurants, right? So if you're also incorporating some of that personal side of your life into your content, you have a greater chance of most likely showing up in front of them, right?
Okay.
Now, on the other side of things, you're talking about different platforms, right? Absolutely. I really do believe in an omni-channel approach. We saw that a few years ago, Instagram shut down for the day, right? They had some glitches and they shut down for the day. What happens if that was permanent or for the week? Can your business survive more than a week without this kind of reach? Most people, yeah, but some people no, right? Yeah. Especially those in like the digital marketing space.
Yep.
So it's definitely good to have an omni-channel approach, no matter who you're targeting. You cannot take your followers with you. So it's great to have something that is Wally owned, like an email list. Mm-hmm. And also, some people have 2 target markets in their business, right? Yeah. Let's say they are a publication of some sort, right? They get their ad dollars from sponsors and from different business owners. And then they also have the consumer side of things. So that's B2B and B2C. And in order to attract more of what you need to run the business, whether that's ad dollars or viewers to keep the advertisers happy, you might have to be in multiple places at once.
Okay. All right. So let's keep that sort of in the back of our mind as we think about this strategy. We're going to talk for the most part about Instagram as sort of the top of this social media funnel, right? We're going to focus on awareness and bringing people in that way. if you are wholly unsure of where to start when it comes to content, video strategy, etc., like what is the best way to put one foot in front of the other when you're just getting going?
First, I would say that we kind of alluded to that, right? Knowing who you're going to talk to.
Yeah.
You could go on there and my gosh, you could scroll for days. There is something for everybody on Instagram. And then when you start to show up, maybe you're a mom, maybe you have kids, maybe you post about that, maybe you're a business owner, you post about that sometimes. It really, you have to get clear on who you want to talk to. What do they care about? Why should they follow you? Right?
Yeah.
So I think that is first. Then it's also kind of paring that down to what problem you solve. How can I leverage Instagram as a business tool to show people that to show my people, right, your target market, how I can help solve their problem? So you've got who you want to work with, really, what problem you solve. And then it's showcasing that through content. So I think where most people kind of get stuck is they get nervous or they want to get started so bad, they just start throwing up some videos and stuff and they fall flat and they say, this isn't working for me. Right. And that's not the case. It's just really a lack of strategy. And sometimes people are working backwards.
I will just piggyback on that to say, while I always have known how to hop on a camera and talk, what I lacked, and that got me a little bit. It's one of the ways we met when I first started. But beyond that, it is super easy to get frustrated if you don't know what you're doing and say that it doesn't work. All the statistics, and I won't enumerate them. I'll list them in the show notes, but like the statistics do point to video working on all of the platforms. It's why video platforms are rolling out in such great number. But without having that plan, without having that strategy, without knowing what to talk about, and perhaps even shedding a little bit of that like corporate stoicism that I think a lot of people get tied into, like, I'm not supposed to show my kids, or I'm not supposed to really have a personality. Like that mindset is a little too sterile for Instagram. Yes?
Right. Yeah, I 100% agree. And I always say, if a picture says 1,000 words, video leaves you speechless because you just don't get the charisma. It comes through in video, the body language comes in, the tone of voice, everything, video is just so powerful. And, I have some clients that don't want to share their personal life. They are, it's just not them. It doesn't fit their brand. And that's fine too. There's other ways to show up without getting personal. And when we say personal, we don't mean like, sharing the fight you just had with your spouse the night before, although that might be some people's thing, marriage counselor.
If you're a marriage counselor, by all means. Right. Yeah.
Hit that record button. But you don't, it comes down to your comfort level. And like I said, it really comes down to your market. So I had one client who was so steadfast on not showing anything personal. And she loves to garden. And I said, that's something that you'd be interested in sharing. And she's a member of a gardening club in her area. And so we started to do some gardening tips and garden updates in her garden, what's in bloom. And people love it. Now she gets flooded. She's a real estate agent. She sold a home. People are like, what can I put in my garden? I want to have bloom throughout the year. And that is just a really personal and beautiful way to connect with people. That's not showing your grandkids' faces or your kids' faces or anything.
Not salesy. It's not, right.
It's just a part of who she is as a person. And it's a nice way to connect with people. And it's a conversation starter. It's something to be memorable by, and just a really great way to show up online that is not only business. Because people do business with people, not businesses.
Related to what people may be interested in following her for, but not strictly about, this home has this many square feet and yada, 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 et cetera. Find it, book a viewing with me. So you make a good point about showing up on video. And I will say, like, I do have some clients who are service-based and some who are product-based. Product, especially if it's visual, I don't know, you sell a skincare line or you have makeup or you're a stylist or whatever, that all makes sense. Service is also appropriate for Instagram. And tell me if I'm wrong. Like, where that challenge for people comes in is I don't necessarily have something inherently visual to show, right? My business is, let's say, I don't know, finance of some sort. But you are the person who is guiding your client through their investment journey or, estate planning or whatever it is. And so your face is really the product or the service because they're going to be working with you. And so knowing what you're like as a person, is this person going to be somebody who I'm going to feel comfortable sharing like the financial mistakes that I've made with, that sort of stuff. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. And it's just because you're a service-based business doesn't mean necessarily that your face has to be the brand. Although that's
Okay.
what I would absolutely recommend. Depending on company size and budget, there's people that have secured paid talent to be
Yeah.
their visual face on their social platforms. But
Yeah.
that's not you could do. There's people that have mascots. There's also ways to leverage video that you're not necessarily front and center. And it also depends how it's done, right?
Yeah.
Often, like when TikTok came out, it was dancing, and people like, I'm a professional financial planner. I can't dance, first of all, and nor is that something I do for my kids. Like that's bizarre, and that's not the case. It's really not the case anymore.
Okay.
That was just really, it's a small subset, and still is a subset of TikTok, right? Is these trending dance. Well, without getting too into it, I absolutely do recommend that you are the face, and there are creative ways to show up taste.
Okay.
And I think it's important because let's go with the financial planner example. If I am in the market to hire a financial planner, even if I started my search on Google or referrals or not, I'm going to go to Google or I'm going to go to your LinkedIn or I'm going to go to your Instagram account. And if I have two identical people with the same talents, they could do the same thing for me. One of them has video and one of them does not. And I binge watched their content because it's good and they show up and I hear their voice and I see what it's like to work with them. And I've seen client testimonials and other things that they've put out there through their video content. Who am I more inclined to hire? Somebody I already know, like, and trust, or somebody that has a really good resume?
Yeah.
I think
100%.
it's a no-brainer.
And I think too, you mentioned the know, like, and trust. You're also, as the service provider, shortening the sales cycle. That client may in fact call both of those, the person with the video versus the person without, and set up like a consult. But they already, my experience has been that they already have sort of a preconceived notion. There's already been some seeds that have been sowed subconsciously about who I like and who I'm more inclined to go with. And it doesn't always have to do with price or anything of that. It has to do very often with how I feel you can help me and like the connection that I feel with you. So the video strategy part of that is huge. And I like that you mentioned that there's ways to do it without, putting on a bikini and dancing or or showing your kids or whatever. So let's jump into some of that Instagram video strategy. And I know there are different kinds of posts that you do for awareness versus nurture versus selling. Can you sort of take us through the basics?
Yeah. So I like to think of your marketing basically as a funnel system. And actually along that funnel, there's different types of videos that can do really well. Okay. So obviously top of funnel is more of like awareness, right? We have to get people aware of your brand and who you are and what you do. So something like that, showing up, showing your face with good hooks and good intention and giving somebody something to make them stop. We want thumb stopping content. Mm-hmm. That's typically best at the top of funnel. Then as we go down the funnel, some people fall off, some people stay and say, oh, I really like what this person has to say. I want to learn more. That's more so where the nurture content comes in. And that's where you could show more like testimonials, social proof of what you've done, and really hitting upon their pain points. Mm-hmm. Any sort of content that can help answer their questions and give them quick wins, quick solves, and kind of show them the way. That's great nurture content. Okay. Something like that could even be like what we're doing right now, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to show up more professionally, doing like a mock kind of podcast or getting yourself on a podcast and extracting that video is a great way to do that. B-roll footage is a big thing right now. Setting up a camera while you're working and putting text over it. Yeah. That's great video. And then there's more of the conversion content, which is when you're actually kind of like doing some social selling and you're pitching to them to actually hire you for a service.
When you're talking, I want to dive a little bit further into like the nurture element. So you've brought people in. No, actually, I'm going to scratch that. Let's go back to the awareness. You sometimes see people posting videos on, I'll use Instagram, for example, that are the same as what they're posting on their website. It's their brand story. And I always think of that as if somebody is on your website, they've already searched you out. It's like you're sort of beyond that first date. And so you can like get right into it, sort of. It depends on your morals. But no, you can cut right to the chase. Whereas when you are on the feed, on your Instagram feed, somebody's not necessarily searching you out, especially when it comes to the awareness stage, directly. So the video content that works for a website versus like Instagram is not the same, correct? And what if so, what is the difference?
Right. So video content that should be on a website is kind of like, traditionally there's the hero image on the front of the website.
Mm-hmm.
Now often we see more video. That
Yeah.
should really be like a showcase highlight reel of, a mix of who you are, what you do, and who you work with kind of
Yeah.
thing. Right. That's
Like,
just the like, get the palette
yeah.
going.
Like, and
Um,
you can have client testimonials and all sorts of stuff there. But if you put a client testimonial on Instagram that's like, look at the great results we got for Sally. If you want results like Sally, call us. That stuff doesn't work there. Yes?
on the website,
On Instagram.
on Instagram, yes and no. It does, but it doesn't, right?
Okay.
If you were to just kind of like post up um a testimonial video, people will most likely kind of scroll through it.
Okay.
So if you can that kind of video works well in different places. Let's say for
Okay.
like Instagram stories, for example.
Yeah. Okay.
And when you think of Instagram stories, I want you to think of it as just that, as a place to tell stories.
Stories. That's when they work, right? On the
Right.
feed? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So you could hop on and say, I'm so excited. I just got this awesome testimonial from so and so. When she came to me 5 months ago, she was here and I told her, let's do this. And now she's here and look what she had to say. Then
Yeah.
the next story is this testimonial video, right? So you're kind of giving some background. And while it's not to say that you can't do that in a traditional video sense, which is now Reels on Instagram, and
Yeah.
put juice into the caption, I would definitely advise on putting some sort of like call to action or text over the video or something to just kind of give some background to why I have this random lady's head on this account that I just followed for social media advice, and now it's somebody else I don't recognize.
Yeah.
Right. So there's other ways to kind of provide some background to make it make sense.
I think you hit on something when you said Instagram stories. A part of what it sounds like that sort of content works well, right? So stories are generally people who've already followed you. It's great nurture content, if I understand correctly. And then you're also telling the story of this person who you've helped, but you're not wrapping it in a, so and so got this, call us for this. It's more the story of how you helped overcome the challenge, etc. Am I following?
100%. I
Okay.
love nothing more but to see a nice little testimonial bubble on their Instagram highlights. So
Yeah.
you've got the stories, they expire within 24 hours. If you want to keep them around, you could save them into a highlight and that'll stay at the top of your profile. So that's really one of the best places to put the testimonials, because first of all, you could provide some background while you're posting that in the stories. And then also you could save and have a nice little stockpile of testimonials ready to go for you. Or let's say somebody stumbles upon your content, one of your awareness pieces of content, while they're watching Reels. And they
Mhm.
click over, they really like what you have to say. And they're like, who is this chick? And is she?
Mhm.
And then you've
Yeah.
got the testimonial bubble of like all these different things. It's great. That's a great spot to put them.
Okay. So dive a little bit further now, if you can, into is there a specific strategy or cadence when somebody is, I'm gonna start on Instagram, I need to start posting videos. Like, what would you recommend? Do this, do this, do this to bring your customer, through their buying journey, or to bring awareness. And here's the strategy for specific video posts.
Right. So I think anybody that tells you they have the magic bullet is lying
Are they
to you.
lying? God, I've
Unless
paid
it
a
is
lot of money to people
Adam,
who have lied to me.
unless it is Adam Mosseri, who is the product developer of Meta and Instagram, and he comes to you and says, "We've cracked the code. We have algorithmic data on how many posts is the sweet spot." They do kind of have that every once in a while. Really, it's kind of common sense, and honestly, it's different for everybody. I have $1 million accounts, $1 million follower accounts that they come on once in a blue, once a week maybe, and post one story, and they post maybe once or twice a week, and their accounts and their engagement are great because they have trained their audience on what and when to expect stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is really a case by case basis, right? And then think about it. There's also these media publication companies that post 8 times a day at least. It's insane. So you really have a great opportunity when you're getting started out to train your audience how you want to work, right? It's
Yeah.
work-life integration, right? If you know Monday through Friday, you could go hard with your marketing and you could show up every day in stories and you could post at least 3 times a week. That's your strategy. That's what's going to work from you because the consistency is really the key here.
I
So
like that you're
show up and do that every day. That's what people will come to expect. I know accounts that Monday morning, I can't wait because I know they have fresh content coming out and that's when they publish it. And I make sure to either find their account. And honestly, now their account shows up front for me on Monday mornings.
yeah.
Right.
Because they've trained you.
Yes, it's like Pablo's dog, right? Give me the treat, throw me the bone Monday morning. So, but for those that it's not that clear just yet, if you're really getting started, I would say, first of all, consistency is key. So make sure you're calendar blocking, which is a whole nother conversation. But in all honesty, I think as long as you have a story up every 24 hours.
Okay, so that was my question. Like one story you should have one thing up there every 24 hours, and it doesn't have to be a huge production. It could be as simple as like I am, on my way to the gym or whatever. It could be okay. So got it.
Something like that. And then I do often let them refresh, typically like on the weekends, right?
Okay.
So depending on your lifestyle and what works for you, I usually do try to give them like one day, do a full hard set, like okay.
Yep.
And then as far as it goes, posting into the feed content, so that's stories and there's feed stuff, whether that's a guide or a reel or a post. I would definitely say at least once. I mean, ideally 3 is probably more of a sweet spot if you can work your way up to every day. And half of those should be videos, right?
Okay.
So Instagram did this whole push. They really prioritize video in their algorithm. A few months ago, they kind of backpedaled and said we over prioritized reels, but honestly, maybe they did. Maybe they put too much weight on that in their back end for the algorithm. But to be honest with you, I still find that reels are doing well.
They're still great for awareness, right? I mean, that's really,
I did notice that the static post did get some more likes and stuff. But
when
honestly,
let me just ask very quickly, when you say static post, you mean like an image, like a text
regular
image, or even just a picture?
Right, exactly. Okay. I did notice that those started to get a little bit more traction, but honestly, the public and your audience will dictate what they want to see.
Yeah.
And almost across every account that I've managed, which is more than 24, the videos still did better at the end. And they're still continuing to do better because it's just, you got to think of where people are at. We're in a consumable culture. People consume things so quickly. We're inundated every day. We know what we like. We know what we don't. And it's a simple switch of your thumb to get onto the next piece of content and get the next dopamine hit of fresh content. Yeah. And so one of the best ways to make sure you're staying up front and even have a fighting chance is through video. That's what people want to see. Especially if they're just kind of scrolling and they happenstance they fall upon your page. If it's too much text or if it's a big heavy graphic, like that's a lot to read when they're consciously consuming. Whereas a video is a little bit easier, right? You can get way more across in 20 seconds of a video than you can in a giant caption, right? Yeah. And if it's good enough, they'll watch the video and they'll go to the caption.
There you go. That's right. And watch the captions for more. Read the captions for more. Or if you're interested, I did a carousel post about this yesterday. Go check out that post for a little more information or something. And then you really have people staying on your feed and the algorithm boosting you. So you hear a lot of like Instagram gurus talk about, oh, you should be posting like 2 or 3 times a day. And the fact of the matter is, unless we have a full team working for us, that is very, very hard. So consistency isn't necessarily about showing up several times every day. It's, yes, about doing the work in the comments and the DMs, but am I understanding you correctly that it's more about setting a schedule, if you will? I'm going to post, whether it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to set that as my parameters for consistency, and that's how you're training your audience. Am I understanding correctly?
Right. So
Okay.
don't get consistency confused with frequency. Okay.
Okay. That is huge. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you mentioned that. I think consistency is so misunderstood. It's not frequency, it's the regularity and the schedule with which you use to execute. Yes?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Even if, it really depends on how big you want to go. If you're ready and you have the resources and you want to blow things out of the water, yes, show up multiple times a day. Make sure you can do that for at least a few months.
Okay.
Okay. And then recalibrate at that point. But let's say if you're just posting for a week, you're going hard and you've got like 5 posts going out, maybe a few of them do good. Overall, they do pretty well. Some of them kind of fall flat. What that tells the algorithm, it's also about quality too, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a poor quality piece of content, it's not going to perform well. And then the algorithm is going to say, you know what? Is your content good? Let me not show, like, it's not doing so great. Let's deprioritize and let's not
Yeah.
show it much because it's not what people want to see.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
make money by keeping you on the app and continuously feeding you what you want to see.
Right.
So if it's not doing it for them, it's not gonna show up.
There's no incentive for them to. Okay. That you make such great sense when you talk about how they look at what you're doing, or not you specifically, but somebody who's beginning to use Instagram. So let me ask you this. Are there sort of like three main things? Somebody's listening to this and saying, this has been on my to-do list for a while. I've posted haphazardly, but not with intention and not with strategy. What are like the first sort of 3 steps that they need to be taking?
Yeah. So just kind of go back to what we were saying a little bit earlier is knowing who you want to talk to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And knowing what problem that you solve.
Mm-hmm.
And then figuring out the medium in which you're going to deliver them a solution, right? And we're here talking about video. So let's just say it's going to be video.
Okay.
Then, I mean, we can even go further than the first 3 steps, right? So, you have an idea. Let's pretend you already did that, right? Because
Okay.
we talked about that earlier and you already taken notes and you've already got that written down, right? So now it's setting up your account, right? Making sure that it's optimized. And what we mean by optimized is that Instagram is becoming very similar to like a Google or search
Mm-hmm.
engine. Captions are searchable. There's select areas on the profile that are searchable. So make sure that you're putting in keywords that relates to what your potential target market is looking for. So
Okay.
if I'm a video expert and I know that my target market is searching video help or video coach, I want to make sure that I have some sort of combination of those words in my account, in my profile. And I also want to make sure that as I'm writing captions, I'm including some of those keywords in there as well. Like,
Okay.
hi, I'm Kerry, your video coach, instead of just saying, do you want to do better on Instagram? Blah, blah, blah. Like it totally matches
Yeah.
that video coach keyword.
Right. Because that's what people are searching. They're
Right.
not. Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
Make sure you got yourself set up and then make a calendar for yourself on this is when I'm going to record my content and this is how I'm going to post it. This is when I'm going to post it and then really get to work. And then thirdly, let the numbers tell you what's working and what's not, right? When you're getting started, I would say, take a look at some of your competitors, do a little bit of R&D, do some research, see what they're posting, see what their top performing posts are. If you're getting started and you have no idea what to do, that is the best way to do it.
Okay.
See
And
what
when
other
you
people
are-
are doing well, and then don't reinvent the wheel. Just make it your own and add
Yeah.
your own thoughts, your own little sprinkles and glitter.
Yeah.
And then as you have some sort of different topics and content and things like that, then that's when you go into yourself. Then you look at your own numbers and see what's working and make more of that And then at that point, hopefully you're doing well, you're getting traction, you're getting awareness, you're getting followers, and then they start asking you questions.
Yeah.
And then you have your own system, right? You go to your comments, you go to your DMs, see what people want, and then that dictates your content strategy there.
Yeah. You use the audience to inform what it is that you're talking about versus just starting to talk and seeing what people like.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I lied. I have one other question. When you are looking at your analytics, and there's so many options out there for publishing and posting, and I can't tell you how many subscriptions I have to things that I don't even know that I have, and I know I'm not alone in that.
Right.
Where should we be going to look at analytics, and what key numbers or data points should we be focused on? And is there like, a bar, like if it does, below this, scrap it. I may be asking you for the magic bullet, and there may not be one, but what do you look at?
Not really. Honestly, the secret sauce is just really kind of doing this all together really well as a well-oiled machine. That's really the secret sauce, right? But as far as data analysts go to see what works, there are third-party platforms that you could use. Buffer, Sprout Social, Hootsuite, all of them offer some sort of analytics if you use them as like a scheduling app or a social media management platform. But honestly, right within Instagram, their professional dashboard has really all the numbers that you would ever want to look at or really need to look at.
Okay.
Unless you're a little bit more advanced and you're tracking things like ROI from your social, then, you'll need something else. But as far as just really kind of seeing an overall wellness picture of how your account is performing, the professional dashboard is the place to go. It's super easy to get caught up in the vanity metrics of your followers, right? Like those top line numbers.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. For a long time, it was like 10K was the magic number that people wanted to hit. First of all, it's for a few reasons, like getting verified and also getting a swipe up link. Those are things of the past now, right? So it's still a pretty good number for social clout. But honestly, I know people that have a few thousand followers and they do amazing, like so well for themselves.
Yeah.
So
and then conversely, there are people who have 1 million followers and couldn't sell them like a 99-cent t-shirt.
Can't scratch two pennies together. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
So things that I like to look for are things that actually tell the story of where my business is going. So let's say, general rule of thumb, my business goals are to grow my influence, to feed my pipeline, and ultimately sell more or launch a community membership or whatever.
Whatever the goal is. Yeah.
So then we got to reverse engineer that into our social plan. Okay. So I know that if in person, traditionally speaking, if I make 10 phone calls, I get 2 clients out of it, just for simple, right? So same thing with your social. If I know that because impressions are always big, right? If I know if I have 1,000 impressions, I may get like 5 followers from that, right?
Okay.
So you kind of have to do some math and see like what that sweet spot number is of what you should really try to be hitting, especially if you're leveraging it for business.
Okay.
Willy-nilly. Does need to be backed by data and a strategy.
Got it.
So I like to see impressions reach. And then also another really good number is to know that maybe you're reaching new eyeballs, new potential prospects, and filling your pipeline is the number of people that have seen your content, whether they're followers or non-followers. Okay. So that's a great stat. That's within the professional dashboard. And then, is my content landing? Are people saving it, sharing it?
Yeah.
And also with stories, you could see if people are tapping forward or tapping back.
Yeah.
You've got way more tap forwards, like people are trying to get me out of this story versus tap backs and they're really reading it. That's a good indication to know you have to switch things up.
Okay. There's a lot.
There's a lot.
Simple and yet very complex. I mean, the process of getting on and starting, I think, is very daunting to a lot of people. It's like, I'm putting myself out there. I don't understand how to do the good video, whatever it is. It really is like a face, a phone, and a voice. That's sort of all you need to get started if you're doing video. And then diving into the part, which is where you come in, that can get quite complex, especially depending on your growth goals, which is looking at the analytics and figuring out a strategy that's custom tailored to your business, your audience, your goals, etc.
Right. I think first and foremost, getting started is the hardest thing, but also the most important thing.
Yeah.
If, like you said, a phone, a face, and a voice. You could just get on there and start showing up and delivering value. No buzz, no whistles, no really nice transition, and all these crazy things people are doing. Just start to show up and
Yeah.
perfect that skill set of showing up. Okay.
Yep.
Then you could start to see, oh, well, you know what? I look at my feed and I notice some themes here. I notice when I'm in the video or whatever, it does well. Let me do more of that. And then, as you start to perfect those skill sets along the way, and they don't have to take very long,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of also getting comfortable. Then you can start to do more advanced things or where just get started, get out there. There's a big, beautiful world on social media, so much potential to tap into. And I promise you, like I said earlier, guarantee that your target market is on. They're waiting for you. They're waiting.
They are. They are waiting for you. It doesn't matter what it is that you're talking about. There's somebody out there who wants to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Where should people find you if they're interested in learning a little bit more about you, potentially working with you? What's the best route for them to take?
Yeah. So online, FikaMediaHouse.com. Also all across social at Fika Media House. And if you personally want to say hi, at Laura.Panica on Instagram. If you need help getting started with Instagram, I'd be happy to take a look at it. We do offer a free consultation.
Very good. Laura, thank you for joining us. You're amazing as
Thank
always.
you for having me.